सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om, may He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not become disputatious and hate each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome everybody to the online classes. So the next last three verses which we did, theory which explains the theory of creation and why the manifestation comes and what is the reason behind it. By default, it's going only selfless actions. Once upon a time, there were three boys. They had to write an essay. And they were just writing something, talking to each other. And they were saying that, we should start the whole process by saying that in deep within the forest, there's a banyan tree. And under the banyan tree, there is a pot of gold. And, some children playing around and they were just talking. One youngster heard him. Sorry, two villagers heard this person and they started laughing about it. They sat in their charpa in the village and they were discussing what that boy was saying about this gold and under a banyan tree. One youngster heard this and he said, "Oh my God." So they know something, these wise people. They say that in a banyan tree, under a banyan tree, there is gold pot. He says, "Let me go there." And he vanished. He disappeared inside. As he was going inside the forest, he saw a man sitting behind a tree and watching a lot of animals running around. And they were all monkeys. So this boy went beside him and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, I want to catch a simian so that I can teach him some tricks and then I can make him the source of my livelihood." He says, "You are going to catch a monkey?" I said, "Yes." "Well, what do you have? You have all the equipment." So like, "I don't need any equipment. I've got a jar and this is enough." So with a jar, you catch a monkey. It's a big monkey. It's a wild monkey. Like, yes, yes, it's very easy. See, I'll tell you what I do. I take the jar. The jar is like this, it's like a round with a neck, a narrow neck. So inside that, I put a fruit, say a mango, and I tie that jar to the nearby tree and just sit far away. So that's it. So what happens? This is the monkey comes and he puts his hand inside the jar and takes the mango. But he can't take the mango out because now his fist has swollen because of the holding of the mango. It can't come out of the jar. Then what do? Then I go slowly towards him and catch him. So, but it's impossible because when he's seeing you are coming, it will drop the mango and go. He says, "No, it doesn't happen that way. You see, they will never drop the mango." And he saw this. They put the jar, that man put the jar there in the mango inside, and the monkey came, a huge monkey, huge simian. It came, it puts his hand inside the jar and it's running around, but it's not leaving. And that man is slowly coming with a cloth bag and everything to capture him. He is not leaving the mango. Ultimately, holding on to the mango, he is caught and his independence is completely taken away. So this young boy is all around 20s. He looks at this whole play and says, what is stupidity? Huh? This monkey is seeing the danger and yet it can't leave the mango. My God, greed has no bounds. And he goes ahead. As he goes inside the jungle, more inside, he sees a pond, another image. He sees a pond. And inside the pond, there is a frog which is eyeing an insect. Its appetite is keen. So it's eyeing the insect. And a snake is behind the frog. So the snake captures the frog. Half of the frog is in the snake's mouth. And the frog knows that it is going to die, but it's still looking at the insect and its tongue goes towards the insect to capture it. Seeing this, the boy says, greed has no bounds. It is about to die. Monkey was at least living. This fellow is about to die. Yet the greed for the insect, the appetite is very, very keen. So it wants to eat. What foolishness these animals are. He meets a woodcutter. The woodcutter says, listen, where are you going? I'm going inside the forest because I want to go to the nearest, the biggest banyan tree that is. He says, listen, I know there are a lot of banyan trees inside, but at present don't go inside because there's a wild tusker roaming around. And it will crush everybody. So be careful, just don't go now. You can go after 3-4 hours. So no, I have to go. Nothing, don't worry, I'll take care of. And as he's going within, the tusker comes. And as soon as that elephant tusker comes before him, this boy starts running. He runs and runs and runs and runs and stumbles on a vine and falls inside a well. As he is fallen, he just throws his arms around and grabs a vine. Just a sort of a branch hanging off within the well itself. And he's hanging on to that small branch with sapling, with dear life. And some insects are working at the root of that branch. He looks down, there is a snake waiting for him. Down below at the bottom of the pit, snake is waiting. Up, the mad tusker is roaming around eyeing him. And he's hanging on to a branch where the insects are working and it can give way anytime. At that particular moment, the tusker walking, its backside hits a particular tree. And there is a honeycomb. And out of that, a lot of bees come down and directly starts attacking this boy. So all over bees are stinging him. And from the honeycomb, a drop of nectar falls down. And as the drop of nectar falls down, what he does is he looks at that and tries to take it. That one drop, somehow the woodcutter makes a sound, the elephant run away, and the woodcutter comes at the edge of the pit and grabs him with both his hands and takes him out. And says, I want to go to the banyan tree. So you are about to be killed, my dear. Just get away. Let's come. No, I want to go to the banyan tree. So I am also coming. I'll also, because I know how to handle the animals. The woodcutter also came with him. They dug the whole area of the banyan tree, around the banyan tree root. They could not find anything. Very, very dejected and disappointed, this young man goes back again. And he narrates his sad story to one elder. And the elder laughed. And the elder said, wow, you are telling everybody is foolish. But you know how foolish you were. You were saying the monkey is foolish, but at least the monkey had something in his hand, a mango, which he was not supposed to let go. But you didn't have anything. You have imagined a pot of gold, which was not there. You have imagined it, and you're running behind something which is imaginary. Who's more stupid and foolish? Next, when you are seeing the frog eating the insect while in the mouth of the snake, while in the face of death, by chance it is doing purely out of instinct. It can't help. But you can. You have been given the power to think, to choose, to discriminate between what needs to be done and need not be done. But you don't choose. And in spite of all that, all the problems you went through, you are still behind, tongue reaching out to that one drop of honey. This is that lasting wish. If only I could. Why I am giving you this story is the next verse is very close to that. Whole life spent on if only I could be a little bit more happier than now. And because of that, if only, we do all kinds of activities, jump into all kinds of actions, and we have no idea where we are going. We just jump into actions. So after that whole theory of creation, then yada yada hi dharmasya, wherever dharma is going down and adharma comes up, I manifest myself. Why do I do that? Because to save the virtuous and to destroy the wicked, I am born from various age to age. I can't. Okay, theory of creation. So what, sir? We are here now. I am here. My world is here. My husband, wife, children, father, mother, the whole society, perceived society is here. I'm really not bothered about whether the theory of creation is there, not there, Darwin was right or wrong, or Mahabharata was there or not there, Gita, Krishna said something or not. I'm not bothered about that. You tell me what I should do, because at the current situation, with whatever is happening around, I do tend to get agitated. I do tend to get stressed. Many of the classes, whenever we are taking classes before this corona, I used to ask everybody this one perennial question. How many of you have experienced at least 1 week of no stress and no tension and no complaints against anybody? Just 1 week, that's all. And slowly people will raise their hand. And I'll be very happy looking at this saying, wow, somebody has experienced. He says, sir, I wanted to comment on something. Even 1 day is difficult. You don't need to give this time of 1 week. Give us 1 day. Any action I do, I'll end up in trouble. Any action I don't do, I'll end up in trouble. So what type of action I'm supposed to do every day? This is a beautiful verse which we are doing now. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanah akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Simple. Verily, bodhavyam, action should be known. Bodhavyam means bring it to your knowledge. When the Lord says bring it to your knowledge, he is talking from the point of view of getting understanding of that knowledge and living it. It's not just knowing. There are a lot of people who know a lot of things. There are a lot of people who pretend to know a lot of things. That's not the criteria. The criteria is, have I understood it? And how do I know I've understood it? Am I living it? And if I'm living it, I will not have any problems in life. But sir, after studying so many years of Vedanta, also, we do tend to slip. It's like saying, I was crawling before in my childhood. Now I have started walking and running. But sir, in spite of, walking and running now, sometimes I slip where? Back to crawling. If you're going back to crawling, that means you have not understood what is walking and running. So understanding it perfectly so that you don't slip down. So what you should be knowing, verily action should be known. Karma, you should know karma. What is karma? Karma is that activity which you do in the outside world. So karma should be known. Nishiddha karma should be known. What activities not to be done should be known. And akarma, that activity which is called no action, should also be known. These three. It's a very simple thing. Karma is divided into three concepts. It's just a bifurcation of karma. That's all. One is Nitya Karma. Nitya Karma is everyday activities. Everyday activity. Cutting your nails properly, combing your hair before the classes. Now, this is an everyday activity for me, not for you. It's for once a week, but for me, it's like 7 days. So every day before the class, at least a little bit of rest for 2 hours, study, and then come. So every same thing for you. When you're coming for the classes, your routine activity should be taking bath, whatever it is, all these routine activities, brushing your teeth and all, which you have to do. You don't have an option. To maintain the physical body, you need to do certain activities, routine activities in the body. Nitya Karma. Then there is activity called Naimittika Karma. Naimittika Karma are special duties which are ordered from you. It doesn't come under the normal routine. For example, I am sitting here taking the class. All of you are listening here and you are into the class. So you are fully focused with a pen and paper and sitting and trying to listen. While we are discussing, your child is doing some mischief and you are saying, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. Suddenly you hear a loud noise and the girl child, she's fallen down and she's crying loudly. And you are here with the pen in your mouth and writing and listening to me. Your daughter has fallen down. What will you do? No, sir, actually, I can't miss these lectures. These lectures are so good. Therefore, I have to, whatever happens, after all, it is bundle of vasanas. What's going to happen? It will go next birth somewhere. But this I should not miss. Will anybody say that? If you say that, you are in trouble. You immediately drop everything and go and tend to the child. Do that. This is Naimittika Karma. Sir, it's an occasional special duty which I had to do. Suddenly, out of nowhere, sir, my sisters came into the house and I could not attend that online classes. So I watched the recording, but online I was not able to do it, sir, at that time because suddenly my sisters came. Naimittika Karma. It's all right. Doesn't matter. Perfectly all right. Naimittika Karma should not become Nitya Karma. Routinely, sisters are coming in the house every week. And routinely every week you say that I can't come, then it is wrong. Okay, so Naimittika Karma is those special activities which you need to do at that particular time, which is allowed. Okay. Third is Kamya Karma. Kamya Karma are those actions where you tend to your desires. Just generally taking, suddenly while listening to the lecture, you feel a little thirsty. So you drink water. It's Kamya Karma, something like that. Very simple. Now, all these three are part of action. Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma, Kamya Karma. For example, in Kamya Karma, in the Ramayana, lots of examples, but I'm just picking up this one. Rama, when Vishwamitra told Rama that, there is this king called Janaka, and he has one magnificent bow. To whom the bow belongs? To Shiva. And as soon as he said Shiva, Rama was sitting. He said, Lord Shiva, Bholenath's bow with Janaka. Can we see it? See, that's desire. Can we see it is a desire. But doesn't matter, you go ahead with it. That is one desire. Kamya Karma. Routine, I'm not explaining because it's routine. Naimittika Karma is special desires. When Sita, Rama and Lakshmana were living in the jungle, suddenly Sita saw the golden deer, Marich, the Asura, dressed as a golden deer, and he ran. Sita said, I want that deer. Rama said, yes, dear. And he went. And as he went behind, she heard after a long time a loud shout called, Lakshmana, help me, Lakshmana, help me, in the voice of Rama. She heard this. Lakshmana also heard this. Lakshmana is just sitting. She said, why don't you go? He said, where should I go? So go and save your brother. He said, see, I know nothing is going to happen to Rama. There's no chance anything is going to happen to Rama. So forget it. He will come and he'll get the deer. How dare you? If something happens, you're not bothered about me. You're not bothered about your husband. You're not bothered about your brother. He said, listen, I know nothing is going to happen to her. Yeah, happened to him. You don't worry about it. Everything will be all right. After that, true, Sita said so many wrong things to Lakshmana, focusing on his intent that his brother should die so that Sita can become his. Literally, disgusted completely disgusted by the whole thing. Lakshmana drew the circle, Lakshman Rekha, around Sita and went to look out for Rama. This is occasional duty. What was his duty? To be with Sita. But this time, specially, he is going to look out for Rama. And he drew that Lakshman Rekha. I heard one of the interpretations of Lakshman Rekha, where one of these ladies, they were saying, some teacher somewhere in IIT or something, and she's saying that Lakshman Rekha is the boundary which all the Lakshman, all the men draw around womankind. See, don't make it too sexist and don't make it too gross. These great people of Valmiki and Vishwamitra and Vasistha, Vyasa, they were far beyond these small thoughts and thinking. You understand? Sita, I explained this to you. Sita represents Jivatma, us. And the Lakshman Rekha represents the righteousness which we should follow. And if you transcend that righteousness, all hell will break loose. That's all is the meaning, right? But Lakshmana goes there. And as Lakshmana goes, Sita is taken away. So you know the story. This is Naimittika Karma. So every action is divided into these three: Nitya Karma, Naimittika Karma, and Kamya Karma. Then there is other action which is mentioned, Nishiddha Karma, actions which you are not supposed to perform. You should not steal. You should not keep an evil eye. You should not do anything wrong to others. You know, all these. In Hinduism, basically, when you go through the Bhagavad Gita or the Ramayana, it is never mentioned you should not do anything. That's surprising. Even in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, many people say this is the right type of food, this is the right type. It is never, it's just mentioned those who are of sattvic pravritti, those who are of sattvic nature, bent of mind, choose to have X amount of food. Those who are of rajasic pravritti, rajasic nature, passionate nature, they choose a different kind of food. They bent over to the different kind. And those who are tamasic by nature, indifferent, inertia by nature, they choose a different kind of food. But nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita or the Ramayana, it is written, you have to eat this. Because as soon as it becomes so shallow, Vedanta becomes so shallow to come down to what you are eating, you better leave your religion. Seriously, even these classes, you leave it. You are not supposed to be sitting in judgment of what other people are doing. All the Shastras are given only for one reason and one reason only, is to look for yourself and see to it that you are getting evolved at every point of time. Therefore, in our Shastras, there is no Nishiddha Karma. So who decides what is a Nishiddha Karma? Should we eat? I really like, there's this some movies which we see, which I show to the children, and one of the movies or favorite movies is called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's a very famous children's movie. And in that, one boy, he looks around and he sees the chocolate factory where everything is made of chocolate. The grass, the river, the trees, everything is made of chocolate. So he looks at that man, the what's his name, Willy Wonka, right? Willy Wonka, and he says, "So all these I can eat?" Willy Wonka says, "Yes, all these are edible, including me, including me. But it is called cannibalism, and in some society, it is looked down upon. You can eat me also. So what can you eat to sustain me? Those who are eating human beings, they are bad. Next, what about animals, sir? Animals we can eat, not vegetarian, non-vegetarian. So if we are non-vegetarian, non-vegetarian we should not eat, because vegetarian is better than non-vegetarian. Yes, there are various reasons. Yes or no, I don't know. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm just saying reasons given. What about vegetarian? Then vegetarian also majority of the time it is junk only, you know. So salads, if you can eat, it's better. More raw food. Like one person came to me and said, "Sir, my kitchen is what's it called? No fire kitchen. I don't have any fire in my kitchen. I eat everything raw." Good for you. Excellent. You're feeling better? Yes, I'm feeling more energetic. Excellent. Go for it. That is why, sir, I keep on telling everybody that all these people who are eating vegetarians and non-veg, they are all should convert themselves into this. Even there, we are loving for conversion. Where will this end? I should not eat non-veg. I should not eat veg. I should not eat fruits, because fruits, I don't know how many pesticides are there. So I should stand under a tree, under a tree where I take a towel and wait for the fruit to fall, because it should not fall on the ground. And then I will eat that. Then stop that also, because that is meant for birds and animals. So then what I'll do, eat air, drink water. That's it. Where does it stop? Religion has nothing to do with these things. Take it from me. Therefore, Nishiddha karma is not given in the books. Nishiddha karma is what I understand, which comes out of my own inner will, which is called conscience. It's my own inner conscience that dictates I should not do this. When somebody is talking to me and the other person is giving bad words, let them do what they want to do, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to get into it. Whatever they want to do, let them do. This is what the way the world is. They are corrupt. They are corrupt. They are karma. I don't want to get into it. Sir, everybody runs behind money. That's their problem. I don't want to get into this rat race. I don't want it. This line of demarcation is done only by you. That's why, according to you, individually, Nishiddha karma is different. Some people are completely selfish by nature and they enjoy taking other people's money and every aspect of life. They're not bothered about it. While other people, the more evolved, other people are very, very wary about any wrong being done, because they understand there is a law of karma. If I do anything wrong, it will come back. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So it will come back. And when it comes back, I don't want to fall flat on my face. I don't want it. Most evolved are very, very careful with everything, with their actions, with their words, with their emotions. Whenever they are contacting the world, they are extremely careful. An evolved person, while crossing a stream of water, is very, very careful not to break the rhythm of it. An evolved person, while crossing a stream of water, is very, very careful not to break the rhythm of it. That kind of an attitude. Naimittika karma. This I will not do, but others are doing. Their karma. It's their headache. They have to face the music eventually. It's up to them. It's their karma. So I'm not looking around. It's like copying. When you are sitting in your exam and writing, one is you focus on your answer and question, and whatever you know, you write. Other is looking around and seeing that that person is removing a chit, that person is removing a chit, that person, and you're looking around saying, my God, everybody is copying. I should have done that. And then you also remove something and do it. Not bothered about what the world is doing. Nishiddha karma is decided by your good self. Understood this? And subsequently, akarma. Akarma is that power within me which doesn't do any action, but the presence of which all actions are performed. The great Swami Ramatirtha gave this example. He says, akarma, the best thing, akarma means which is not done at all. I don't do anything. Is when the sun rises up. When the sun comes up, it lights up the whole city. One street, there is a marriage procession waiting for the sun to happen, because the muhurt is in the morning 7:30. So as soon as the sun comes up, a little while later, it lights up the marriage procession. Everybody's enjoying. On the neighboring street, somebody has died at night, and they are waiting for the morning to take that body, shav, for the shav yatra. There also sun is required. Sun is lighting up a marriage procession. Sun is even giving light to a person who's dead for the path. But sun is not directly responsible for anything. Now I'll tell you what is the right way to act. Right way to act is act without any egocentric desires. This is what I want should not be there. So if a duty comes to you, which comes under your Swadharma, do it. What needs to be done, needs to be done. And when you do something which needs to be done, you are so happy doing it that you don't look out for what comes out of it. You don't look out for it. Remember the words I'm using. You don't look out for. So when the result comes, you take the result in hand and say, this is the result. Is this the result I wanted? If the answer is no, it could have been better, so that I can change the quality of my actions, so be it. So the focus on the result is only on those lines. It is not on anything else. No ego. So while you are functioning in the world, there is no ego. There is no doer. Okay? When there is no doer, then there is no doing. So from the doer's point of view, doing happens. After the work is done, people come and say, excellent work. Really, you did such a beautiful painting or writing, beautiful poetry, and what a business you created. And then you say, yes, 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 thank you very much. And with that, thank you, thank you, thank you, you take it up as if you are the doer. And then when you become the doer and you understand you are the doing, what you did, then the law of karma functions. Every action done by you has an equal and opposite reaction, right or wrong. But when you are not the doer, and when people come and say you great job, you may say yes, yes, because you don't want to create any disputes with anybody. Okay, okay, yeah, thank you, thank you. Internally, you understand who are you to do anything. Some higher principle, some divine power functioning at present through you. Therefore, something is being done. And how long will it take for this divine power to switch off its power? Now I'm sitting and talking to you, right? You are seeing this, right? Now, how long will it take for that divinity to make me stop talking? Half an hour? 15 minutes? Shanabhar. In an instant, while I'm talking, my throat can choke. In an instant, things can happen where I may not be able to communicate or able to talk. Something can happen to you, God forbid, but I'm just saying this. Who is the doer? just this dhacha, this compartment is the doer. No. Through this equipment, some higher power is doing something. Any activity, taking care of my children also is that only. No mother should say, I am taking care of that. You have not done anything in your life. The moment that arrogance comes, that I am taking care of my family, nature will see to it that you are punished, you are roasted literally. You are not the doer. Something gets done through you. Once you understand this, that something gets done through you, you are not the doer, then you don't go across any hits and runs. No law of karma for you, because you're not the doer. So ego is not there. So when ego is not there, body will face its karma, mind will face its karma, intellect will face its karma because it's facing the world. But it will be pinpricks to you because it's not you. Ramana Maharishi, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had cancer. The story is Ramana Maharishi had a cancer and he need to be operated upon. And the doctor said, I'll give you anesthesia. He said, doesn't matter, just do it. And they did it without it. He not even bothered. Not that it, don't start getting into the hospital and saying that I'm like Ramana Maharishi, don't give anesthesia. It's not that. It's just the focus is not the body. Big deal here. This body will grow old, it will die, it will have its gray. Every aspect will be there. Don't take so seriously. The same thing, the mind will keep on changing. Understanding this, that the mind changes constantly. My mind and your mind. Intellect changes constantly. 20 years back, I'm telling you, I had no inclination, at 20, make it 23, 24 years back, no inclination to do what I'm doing now. I was zero interested in Vedanta. I called it a waste of time. Now I don't know anything other than that. My understanding is much better than what it was 10 years back. And 10 years hence, I may come to you and say that, listen, 10 years, before 10 years, we had this coronavirus thing and we were talking on this mobile phone and whatever it is. I'm sorry, but I may have said something wrong there. Because the real version, now I know how to go about it. After 10 years, your intellect changes, your ideas change. And in all these changes, to shrug your shoulders and saying, boss, I am not responsible for any change. मैंने कुछ किया ही नहीं, तो किस चीज का हिसाब लेना है? किया ही नहीं, I didn't do anything. And when you do that, you have understood akarma. When you do that, then you understand that every minute is a bonus. Every aspect. So you don't have time for fights. You don't have time. You just don't have time for negative thoughts. It's wastage of my life. I don't want to do that. In fact, I want to elongate my breathing. Therefore, they say, do pranayama, and everybody says, they are doing it. But internally, they are getting more and more angry, more and more stressed. Therefore, they are burning up their breath more. Don't need to do anything. No stress. Don't go behind desire-ridden activities. Do what's needed and more. That divinity principle is functioning through you. Nothing affects you. This is akarma. So we have understood the whole karma theory. Correct? Haven't we not? I thought I did. Nitya karma, naimittika karma, kamya karma, all these are actions. Then forbidden actions, actions which we are not supposed to do. Then akarma, that which instigates activity within me. The supreme self, the divinity, Brahman, Atman, whatever name you give it. That's it. That's karma. Understood? Yes. Gahana karmano gatihi. Last three words of this verse. Understanding karma is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. So you can't understand karma. I'll give you an example why it is written. Every action, those who are Vedanta students, now you all know, every action comes from a desire to act. Correct? I have a desire to do this action, therefore I am acting. Every desire comes from a thought. Agree? So every action comes from a desire. Every desire comes from a thought. One thought, I think today I should do this. And then, why am I doing it? And I do it. That's it. Every desire comes from a thought. From where does the thought come? So thought just comes. No, but thought just comes. I understand, but there has to be some source. No? Then they named this unknown source of the thought vasanas. Vasanas are the essence of my personality. So when the essence of my personality is on, vasanas, so if I have a vasana for sports, then I have a thought of doing some sports, then I have a desire towards a sporting activity, which goes in the action of either running or walking or tennis or squash or whatever. So there has to be the seed. If the seed is not there, no thought, no desire, and no action. So vasanas. From where did this vasanas come? Vasanas, another name for vasanas is ignorance. So from where did this ignorance come? Ignorance came from this all-pervading reality. Brahman is everywhere. When Brahman is everywhere, infinite reality, out of that, this ignorance has come. Okay. I didn't understand, sir. Brahman is the all-pervading reality. Yes. It is the infinite. Yes. It is all knowledge. Yes. Out of that, ignorance has come. But if it is all knowledge, where does the ignorance come? Doesn't come. Then you are all knowledge. Yes. But sir, I am existing. You are existing, therefore ignorance has come. So action has come from desire, thought, vasanas, which is ignorance. So what is action? Ignorance. Ignorance cannot remove itself. So no action can remain ignorance or remove ignorance. Only ignorance can be removed by knowledge. That is the reason Gahana, very deep action is you can just see a perceptible, perceiving action. And you say that action is right or wrong, good or bad. Just seeing the action. And the answer is that should not be the criteria. Your criteria should be the intention behind that action. Therefore, law of karma functions based on the intention of that action. When they say you have done papa, sin, is based on what is the intention behind. Like Hamlet, when he is heard that his father is dead and he goes to meet his mother, the dining table, the mother is there sitting right there and the uncle is sitting there, and the uncle says, Hamlet, I'm so sorry that your father expired. I'm really sorry. Young, good, great king. And by the way, I wanted to tell you that next week I'm going to marry your mother. And he takes the mother's hand. And Hamlet is sitting there and is watching. He doesn't know. So he just says that, so have I come for the death of my father or have I come for your marriage? Mother keeps quiet. She can't say anything, completely blind. She's just keeping quiet. And then he has a talk with the mother. When the mother is there in a bedroom, he walks on the stairs and the famous lines of Hamlet. He says, I will talk daggers to her, but use none. I'll talk daggers to her, but use none. And he goes, the mother hugs him, Hamlet, you are back. And the way Hamlet shouts at his mother, extremely bad language where no son can dare even think, forget talking to a mother like that. She collapses. She says, what kind of a lady you are? Your husband died and you want to get married? Is that so important? He finishes her. I can't even repeat what he said. finishes her off. Ultimately, she sobs and says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and she cries. And then Hamlet takes her by the arms, embraces her, and another beautiful line. Mother, I'm cruel only to be kind. I'm cruel only to be kind. When the intention is right, things will happen. Don't look at action per se. When we go for homework in children's classes, I give them one page to write. Even this class, I think so majority of the students have done that. One page to write and ask them if there is any mistake in that page. Bhagavad Gita verse, first verse with the meaning, a transliteration and the translation. Any full stop missed, I scratch the whole thing and they have to rewrite again. Children and majority of the students have written 6 to 7 times the same verse without getting irritated. Why do I cancel? Because I love canceling. No, I'm cruel. Only today, if you can focus on one verse and write without a mistake, your intellect is available at that particular juncture of time. Within a span of 3 months, every activity you do, your waking activities you do, your intellect will be available there and you'll be seeing an error may even before it is made. Oh my God, I was supposed to do that. I should not do that. That level of intellect will come in between. For that, the training is this. And if I'm strict, yes, I am. There's nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong. So this attitude is important. All these concepts are very difficult. Therefore, you don't point a finger outward and say, that person is doing this activity. That person may be doing any activity which may be right for him, but I don't want to do it. It's as simple as that. So spirituality is never looking extroverted and saying what the other person's actions are. Krishna lived like this, sir, therefore I am also going to live. Not necessary. Krishna lived in a different time, in a different era, and a different personality. Not everybody can do that. One man told me, sir, you teach Bhagavad Gita, no? I to believe in life of Krishna only. Therefore, I am married. Naturally, I got a wife, but I love gopis also. So I keep on roaming around between every woman. I hug and kiss and do all that. And the wife is complaining. I said, listen, don't talk about Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. Before Krishna Avtara, there was Rama Avtara. That was a one woman man. Do that. Live a life like that. 99%. 100th time, I will explain to you when to become Krishna. Don't misuse the subjects. So, very, very difficult to understand action per se. So, all I can do is understand myself. I have a weakness. I have certain desires. When these desires are unfulfilled, I get agitated. Therefore, I need to get over it so that I am peaceful. Once I am peaceful, I'll do my job properly and everybody else around me will also automatically become peaceful. This is the way the world order changes by one person. Okay. So today's class is over. Thank you very much. We'll continue next time.